What's up, guys? It's your Vincent Valentine EX Turk. What's up, my arch fiends of chaos? How are you doing today? So we're gonna be taking a break from Final Fantasy 15, even though I'm using some Final Fantasy 15 footage, which is right here. I'm using some Final Fantasy 15 footage. It's gonna go to a different Final Fantasy game. We're gonna be talking about the theory: how was the Buster Sword created? Now, we all know from playing Crisis Core, Angeal's father gave the Buster Sword to Angeal, which, I speculate, that's Professor Hollander is Angeal's father. But that's another theory, another time, another place. You know, we're not going to be talking about Project Jillian. So, but we already know that Angeal, or whoever Angeal's father is, gave Angeal the Buster Sword. And then we know that before Angeal dies, at the hands of Zack Fair, trying to end the existence as a monster, Angeal gives his final gift to Zack, and that's the Buster Sword. And then this is to clarify people who haven't played Final Fantasy. And then Zack gives the Buster Sword to his newest legacy, which is the main character and protagonist in Final Fantasy VII, Cloud Strife. Now we got the story of where how many people who own the Buster Sword. There's a reason why creating one could destroy the planet, and why there's only two materia slots. There's two materia slots because a creation could destroy the planet. Now, why is that? Some people theorize it's made by the black materia, but the black materia wasn't even mentioned until we got to that saga of Final Fantasy VII. We're talking about years before Crisis Core, where Angeal, Angeal's father, Professor Hollander, whoever Angeal's father is, discovered him. Now, the reason why I had the Final Fantasy 15 clips of me fighting the Iron Giant, this is where it's going to come into play. What if, after slaying an Iron Giant, since they're rare monsters in Final Fantasy games because they're really hard to beat and they're a higher level, what if to say whoever created the Buster Sword, whether it's Angeal's father or a soldier before Angeal's father, probably got into a battle with Iron Knight, you know, the monster, and then after they defeated Iron Knight, they probably took his big sword. And who's not to say they didn't mod it where it could be handled? Now, Iron Giant has a huge sword because Iron Giant's huge. It's a huge monster in the Final Fantasy series. So, you know, why can't A go into B? Why can't it be possible that the Buster Sword was created by Iron Giant's weapon, and that's why the sword's so big? But it's also planet destroying. That's why there's only allowed two materia slots. And I'll tell you why. The Iron Giants in Final Fantasy VII, they're usually found in the Northern Cavern. You know, the place where the Northern Cave, where you have to fight Genova and Sephiroth. So they're so powerful in Final Fantasy VII that they're sent down there. You can't find one in the regular world. You can't even find one at Gold Saucer, let alone even when you do the challenges. Now, why is that? Why is that? Could it be possible that Iron Giant's so strong enough that it could destroy the planet itself? It's one of the strongest monsters out there, besides Behemoth. I think, if anything, Iron Giants are stronger than Behemoths, because you could find Behemoths in other parts of any Final Fantasy game. But in any other classic Final Fantasy game you played before, they're hard monsters to find. Why is that? Because they're so powerful they can probably destroy the planet. And that's why I think it's possible that the Buster Sword was created out of the sword the Iron Giant is used. Now, you go ahead and laugh at me and ridicule me and make fun of me in the comments below for this theory. But I'm willing to invest my time and energy to this theory. If you look at the size of the Iron Giant's sword, with a little bit of modding, it could be possible it could be crafted into the Buster Sword. You know, yes, Iron Giant's sword's too big, but what if it was taken to a Shinra lab? They cut down to size, like half size, and then only made for 2 material slots because how powerful that sword is. Remember, Buster Sword is the little brother to Sephiroth Masamune, and if you know anything about Sephiroth Masamune, or Sephiroth as a character, you know if you're a normal human being, you get... Okay, weapons mean something in Final Fantasy VII. Now back to the whole Sephiroth thing. I had to pause and go, you know, help the roommates, but anyways. If any human gets struck by a Sephiroth sword, and this is a normal human, the only normal human that survived Sephiroth's strike with the Masamune was Tifa Lockhart, but that's because she had special training by Master Zongan. Because of that stuff, she survived. But any normal human that gets struck by Sephiroth's sword, it's instant death. It's instant kill. That's how powerful. Final Fantasy weapons are more than just weapons. They're more than just, they're supernatural powerful weapons that you know. Let's put it this way: if it was real, the U.S. government would probably use it to wipe out any opposition. But that's not the point. That's not the point. The point here is, each Final Fantasy weapon is more than just a regular weapon, more than just a brandishing, you know, flamboyant looking weapon. It actually has purpose and meaning and what it does. Each weapon in Final Fantasy games has some kind of power in it. Because Final Fantasy depends on Earth's energy and magic. Each weapon has something in there. From, you know, from Noctis's engine blade, from Squall's gun blade, to Cloud's Buster Sword. And the reason why we're talking about Cloud's Buster Sword is it makes sense into this thing. It makes sense because it must have come from somewhere. All these swords are forged by materials. Now, I'm not going to talk about the other swords. I'm not going to talk about Masamune, the rapier, Genesis rapier, Squall's gunblade, or Noctis's engine blade. Even though I'm using Final Fantasy 15 gameplay, this is the only best footage I have of the monster known as Iron Giant. I think the Buster Sword's so strong. Now, I may not do what Sephiroth does and hit someone in one strike, but the Buster Sword is so strong. One strike, you ain't gonna just get cut, and that's it. You're gonna be flying. You're gonna be flying miles down. Because I believe the materials that were made to use a Buster Sword was one of the original Iron Giant's swords after it being slain in battle by Shinra's military, or whoever created the Buster Sword. They never put who created the Buster Sword. We assume it's Angeal's father, because Angeal's father was the first to have that sword. So, but the point is, it had to be created from somewhere, and I believe it's created from Iron Giant's sword that he brandishes around, and it'd be the regular Iron Giants. It wouldn't be the Red Giants. It'd be the regular Iron Giants. There's no such thing as Red Giants in Final Fantasy VII, so it's only logical that someone in the Shinra military defeated the Iron Giant, whether it's together or apart, and took the sword, cut it and divided it in half and modified it, and that's where the Buster Sword came from. Like, each sword does something. Sephiroth's sword kills in one strike if you're a regular person. The Buster Sword will make you fly after getting cut. And it probably could get a good cut where it might cut you in half because how powerful that weapon is. Creating one could mess up the planet. It didn't destroy the planet, but if anyone were to create like 2 or 3 Buster Swords, the Gaia would be finished because it comes from one of the strongest monsters in the game. It comes from Iron Giant. Iron Giant technically created the Buster Sword because it was his it was that monster's Buster Sword that made it possible to modify to create the Buster Sword. Now, I want to see what your comments are like on here. This is my theory. If you want to debate me in the comments and tell me why I'm wrong or why I'm not or whatever. I want to hear your viewpoints on this. And also, may the crystal be with you. Have a nice day, my arch fiends. I'm heading over time. But yes, this is my fan theory of where the Buster Sword actually truly came from.